Good evening, Internet, and welcome to our second episode of the week, episode number 311 of the Comic Watchers Show. Thank you so much for showing up. He's Chad, I'm Matt, and this is our show where we talk about comics. So, our guest this week is author, bon vivant, and all around good dude, Elliott Kalan. We're talking to him about the Barbarian Behind Bars, currently on sale from Mad Cave. Elliott, how the heck are you?
I'm great, thank you. I mean, I've been good ever since I was referred to as a bon vivant. I feel like that it brought a new level to my life. I'm very excited about it now. But I'm good. I'm excited to talk about comics, especially Barbarian Behind Bars on store shelves now. I'm trying to get into pitch mode. Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of time for that.
Oh, okay, thank goodness.
But before we do that and dive in, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and, as a comic book reader and just in general, what your experience has been?
Sure. I mean, my name's Elliott Kalan. I'm a writer. I do a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm a podcaster as well, but I'm mostly a writer. And I work in TV and I work in comics, and I'm living my lucky dream of being a professional writer that I've wanted to be ever since I was a wee child. And at an early age, I got interested in comic books and have been reading them for 30 some odd years now. And it feels like I can justify doing that by being a professional who writes comic books now. For my comic book work, people may have seen one panel from a book I wrote years ago for Marvel called Spider-Man and the X-Men, where there's one panel where Spider-Man is talking to Sauron, and Sauron's saying that he doesn't want to cure cancer, he wants to turn people into dinosaurs. That's my everlasting legacy in comics. But I've written, right now I'm currently writing Harley Quinn for DC. I've been writing that for a little while. Barbarian Behind Bars is my new book for Mad Cave. At Aftershock Comics, I co-created Maniac of New York, a kind of slasher satire comic that I'm very proud of. And I've worked all over the place. I've written a couple of children's books, one called Horse Meets Dog, one called Sharko and Hippo, and one called Sadie Mouse Wrecks the House that just came out last year. And I came out with a book last year about joke writing for adults called Joke Farming from the University of Chicago Press. And in television, I was a writer of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart for a long time. And I worked on a show called The Who Was Show that for children. And I'm currently... I can't say much about it, but I'm currently working on a Ghostbusters-related project that I'm excited about. And in television, I worked on the Netflix version of Mystery Science Theater 3000, which was another long-time dream of mine. So I've gotten to do a little bit of all these things that I've been like checking off the boxes from when I was a kid of the things that I want to write and work on, and I'm almost out of boxes now. So and I have to start doing new things, of which Barbarian Behind Bars is a mostly new thing. It's a book about a Conan the Barbarian type, barbarian warrior from another dimension, lands on Earth, kills his opponent, and then is immediately arrested for murder and thrown in jail. And he can't speak English. Nobody knows where he came from. And his public defender has to figure out how to handle this situation while he tries to get out of prison the only way he really knows how to, which is to fight his way out. And it's very much in the style of kind of like B-movie pulp of the 70s and 80s. It's super violent, but it's also kind of funny. But I wanted to write something where I was like, I want to write something that I cannot show my parents, and so this was where I got to from that. But yeah, I'm just an all-around comics and comedy and television writer, and I will be until they bury me in the earth. So that's pretty much all that's pretty much all there is to know about me.
Okay, well, that's one hell of a resume, my friend. Tell us kind of the genesis of Barbarian Behind Bars. Like, where did this idea come from?
So I find I get there are two ways that I get ideas. One is while I'm sleeping. The other day I dreamt a pretty much full kind of 90s style neo-noir that I want to write as a screenplay. And I was like, this is a good dream. It's like I'm watching a whole movie. But otherwise from, watching other things, seeing other things, and thinking about how to put twists on different elements. And so I think the inkling behind this first started I do a podcast called The Flophouse, which is a podcast about bad movies. And we did a show about the movie Masters of the Universe, the old He-Man movie. And He-Man goes to Earth and he has an adventure, and then he goes back to Eternia and I was like, this guy is causing so much trouble. They arrested him. Like, how do you handle that? Like, how would that work exactly? There's no record of him. And even though he speaks English in the movie, like a real character from another dimension would probably not speak English. And so it was very much, well, then what would happen in that situation? Like, what happens when you combine kind of fantasy elements with prison elements, and what could be the tone of that if you just leaned into how dangerous that situation would be, and also kind of how pulpy and ridiculous that situation is. And that's where it came from. It's in this book. I'm reuniting with my the artist that I worked with on Maniac of New York, Andre Moody, and with that book, it was a similar thing of like the disappointment I had for decades over Jason Takes Manhattan. When I was like, I love New York so much, like it needs a slasher story kind of like worthy of it. And so Maniac of New York is kind of my way of taking a slasher story and fitting it into, well, how would that work somewhat in the real world? Oh, in New York, they'd try to catch this guy, they'd fail because he's an unkillable death elemental or whatever, and they just kind of live with it. And just become a thing that just a part of living in New York is that every now and then this guy in a mask kills a bunch of people. And so I really like to take a thing that exists in kind of a movie world or a fiction world and be like, well, how do you make that slightly more real? If you put that in a slightly realer situation, what would happen? And so I think that's where Barbarian, where the kernel of it comes from,
That's awesome. And I definitely want to come back to your disappointment in Jason Takes Manhattan.
We can talk about that. It's like it came out when I was a kid, and again, New York was the most important city in the world to me and still is. I grew up in New Jersey, dreaming of the glittering spires of New York, and I was like, this is going to be amazing. Oh my God, there's so much stuff that you can do in New York. It's the greatest city. What's going to happen? But I was too young and I was too afraid of those types of movies. And so it wasn't until years later that I finally watched it and I was like, oh, like it's like not really in New York very much. And like, even when he's there, he doesn't really look like New York. Like and the idea of like, that is like, we're in New York City. What are we going to do? We're going to go to Times Square. We're going to go to a bar. We'll go to the sewers. We'll be in a bunch of back alleys. And even as a kid, even as a young adult watching it, I'm like, New York doesn't really have that many alleys. Like this isn't, the subway doesn't look right. This doesn't make any sense. So it was for years I was gestating just that idea of like, well, what would it really be like if you could really take advantage of the city and how great a city it is, how many different kinds of people live there, how many iconic locations are there. And then I had to be like, well, I have to justify this in some way. Like I can't just have it. I can't just write a story about a guy running around killing people. And so it became a kind of satire or metaphor about how specifically gun violence, but problems in general, America tends to, if there's not an easy way to solve them, just kind of like live with it. They just kind of let it happen. And so that's what that book came about. But when you call it Jason Takes Manhattan, there's already been characters that took Manhattan, and they were the Muppets, and they made the most out of Manhattan. You watch that movie and you're like, this is New York. They are doing it. This is New York stuff. So it was a high bar to clear, and Jason unfortunately did not clear it.
Nope.
But couldn't do what the Muppets did. The Muppets outbested Jason in that one.
Should have stuck to Crystal Lake.
Exactly. That's where he knows where all the things are. He really the thing that I like, Jason, you watch him walk around Manhattan, you're like, this is a tourist. He doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Now you talk about some of the movies that you grew up with. What were some of were any of the comics that you read as when you were young also influence the story, or?
Very much so. So I first really got into comics in the early 90s, which was, I was there right at the start of one of the probably crappiest periods in terms of like the content of stories, but one of the best periods for shiny covers of comic books. I had so many comics with shiny covers.
Absolutely. I'm still a slut for shiny covers.
I had to wean myself from it. Eventually what helped the most was eventually my life got too busy to go to the store weekly. But when I was going weekly, if that cover was shiny enough, I was definitely getting it. But I really grew up as a real Marvel zombie. I got into Marvel so hard, and I think it was what inspired me more in many ways was going back and rereading the Marvel comics of the 80s, the books that came out kind of right before I was really reading the books regularly. And there's talent all throughout, comics history, but there's something about a lot of those books from the 80s that really feel like they are in this wonderful sweet spot between the kind of like adventure boisterousness and pulpiness of the 60s and the more sophisticated, storytelling that would come later. And so for instance, right now I'm writing the Harley Quinn book for DC. And if you ask me like who are my influences on that, the biggest ones would probably be like Keith Giffen, or the books he was doing, or even the Steve Gerber's book from the 70s, his. And so there's which, as you can tell, makes an incredibly popular series, that it's so heavily indebted to these writers who are not necessarily the style right now. But otherwise it's kind of hard for me to pick out specific ones. But there's so many books from the past 30, 40 years that really made a deep impression on me, and which I really loved, and which I'm trying to get somewhere close to. I feel like I've now, just in the past couple of years, written enough comics that I can now call myself a professional and not like a dilettante who like dabbles in comics, But there are times when I'll read a book and I'm like, I could never do this. I'm rereading some of the older Hellboy comics right now, and they're just so amazing. And I'm like, I don't even know how he does. I don't even know how he puts together the story in these pages. I've got to study this,
So the book is at Mad Cave, and they, our good friends there are good at kind of picking up, different types of stories. Kind of walk us through pitching it to Mad Cave, and did you pitch it around to other companies, or was it just something that you wanted to do with Mad Cave?
I really wanted to work with Mad Cave. So the part of it was there were some editors at Mad Cave that I had worked with in the past who I really liked working with. Mike Martz is there, and Christina Harrington was the editor on this book, and so I knew I wanted to work with them. And the way that they worked with, I liked so much of the stuff they're putting out and the variety of it. Like you're saying, like they've got such a variety of books, and the way they treat creators seems really great. At least in my experience, it's been really great. And the books come out and they look beautiful. Like they're well printed, which is something you cannot always take for granted in the world of comic books. So I was really lucky that I was talking to them about doing something, and I pitched them Barbarian, and they were into it. So I didn't have to take it all around, which I would have. I would have gotten this book on paper somehow, but I really lucked out that I got to do it with them. I feel like I'm in very good hands with them, and I'm hoping to do more with them in the future if they'll have me. Hopefully they will.
Yeah, we've talked to a lot of creators that have worked with Mad Cave, and they've got nothing but glowing reviews for the editorial process, all the behind-the-scenes stuff. And it just makes me happy to know that there's indie comic book companies out there that are really doing it right and doing it professionally.
This is probably, there's so many great little companies, or smaller companies, not
absolutely.
little, but so much great smaller companies right now. It's really I feel like we're in a time right now when there's so many good books coming out, and from so many different places, and the reach of these companies is so much greater than the smaller companies from when I felt like I was growing up reading comics, where if a book didn't get mentioned in Wizard, it was very unlikely that my local store was gonna potentially pick up a copy of it, and yeah, it's wonderful that Mad Cave is there doing such great work, and that there's publishers like it. But it makes me really happy. Yeah, and I was just looking, literally before this, I was looking at my copy of the first issue of Barbarian Behind Bars, because it arrived in the mail finally, and they sent me my crate of them. And at the back, there's like this double page spread of the collected editions that they have out, the graphic novels that they have out now. And it's like, there's so many of them where I'm like, oh, I want to read this one. I want to read that one too. And they all look kind of different. There's so often a company can typecast itself to one type of book, and then they're just doing that type of book to diminishing returns. And I feel like Mad Cave they're building themselves a bright future, I think, and I can't speak highly enough of them in my experience. Yeah.
And they also have the different imprints, so they're publishing pretty much all ages books.
Yeah, which is also, it's nice that so I have two sons who are 12 and 7, and there's so much more comic stuff available for them and at different ages than there was. I feel like when I was a kid, you were either reading like Archie, or you were reading this is not exactly. I was like, you're either reading Archie or you're reading Faust, and I'm like, no, that's not it. There was stuff in the middle, But you were either reading Archie or you were reading like full bore superhero comics where someone was getting killed or something like that, or like eventually like something like Bone was around too. But now it's great that there's more of an eye towards all ages markets. That all ages mean it used to be all ages just meant like there's a comic for kids and there's a lot of stuff for older because we've got to prove that comics aren't just for kids anymore. And we kind of like course corrected too much in the comic book world. And now it's like, oh, there's all these kids that love comics and graphic novels. And it's great to be able to get stuff into their hands. You know, my wife is a children's librarian, and I'm constantly amazed by just the vast quantity of graphic novels that they stock at the school library she works at and that she brings home for our kids. It's really makes me wish I was growing up now as opposed to when I was growing up, you know, when again, like I said, it was mostly what's the book with the shiniest cover. That's the one I'm going to pick up today, you know?
So as you were working on the book, was there anything from your, TV experiences that you brought into, the writing? And because I know you didn't work on it, but I feel like there's a little bit of Oz in the in the book, with the different prisoners.
With the sitting. Yeah, the very much so. I mean, this is I'm someone I think about writing process a lot, and that's what the book that I wrote. They didn't write it last year, but it came out last year. Joke Farming is very much about writing process, and it was exciting to me to see how much of the skills that I have picked up from writing television apply to comics in terms of pacing, in terms of how to get across character pretty concisely, so you get a sense of a character quickly, how to keep kind of little cliffhangers coming along so that the page turns all kind of lead you to the next page, but also in reverse, how much writing comics has helped me with writing television. And often I will, if I'm working on a scene for a television show, often I will try to break it down as comic pages first so that I'm really picking the most important moments and then highlighting those, because it's very easy to just write page after page of dialogue that doesn't go anywhere. You get caught up in kind of banter between characters, and suddenly you've got 3 or 4 pages of dialogue where you're like, no one's really said anything of note for this entire time. We can't have this. And writing comics has helped me to learn how to distill things to a very specific moment so that you can keep scenes on point and concise, and the characters making the most of each line of dialogue. But otherwise, it's been, I think, all forms of writing, the skills are relatively fungible to each. There's things you have to accommodate for the medium, but knowing from television, kind of how do you write something that, especially for me, continues to deliver jokes or continues to deliver fun moments kind of at a regular pace. How do you keep an audience invested, and how do you keep them coming along? And that's been the most important thing,
Yeah, I was going to kind of ask you about how you do, the comic timing, of making sure jokes hit, on the page, because it's kind of different than, TV.
Yeah, you have no control over the pace of the reader, whereas on television, you're controlling the speed of delivery. And so it's a lot of making use of how much, which panel is this going to land on? And, people naturally, there's a little bit of a beat in between panels that gives you a little skip in time, or if you can put in a silent panel to build a little bit of space in and things like that. And so, unfortunately, I'm not always great at it because I want to cram as many jokes into a book as about if you read Harley Quinn, a valid criticism would probably be I'm trying to squeeze too many jokes into this book. But I think knowing how much verbiage you can fit in a panel, how you can space out the balloons so that it feels like you're mimicking the pacing that you would deliver if it was spoken, how you can do it across the panels is something that I've been working towards, and which I think that's the way to control that pacing, the momentum, so that the jokes hopefully land in the way that they're supposed to. I remember reading something that I think it was Mark Waid wrote. It was either Mark Waid or Alan Moore. They're both great. They're very different, but they're both great. About literally a word balloon can only hold this X many words. And it was they had the specific number of words. And a panel can only hold so many words in it. And so working within that, how do you control timing so that something is spaced properly between word balloons, spaced properly between panels, so that someone's eye is on that panel for just the amount of time that you want it to be on, and not for too long and not for too short. And that's something I'm kind of always fiddling with a little bit, you know.
And how's it working with Andrea, you know, to kind of make sure that your writing and timing, you know, translate, you know, art-wise?
I mean, I love working with him. I love his art. I love the it looks so real to me, but it also has a little bit of a heightened element to it. But it's also beautiful. Like the watercolor art he does is beautiful. I love the facial expressions that he draws. Like his people look like real people having real reactions, which I love. And so usually he and I just happen to be on the same page. You know, there was an issue of Maniac of New York where I was like, I forgot to send you. Part of it took place at a school. I was like, I forgot to send you like a reference photo for what I wanted this school to look like. But here's the photo that I found. And he's like, oh, like this? And he had like already drawn it, and it looked exactly like the picture that I may have found the same picture. I was like, yeah, that's it. And every now and then there's something where I'm like, oh, can you move this a little because it's got to pay off this way later on. Andre, he likes to, at least most of the time, I think he doesn't like to read too far ahead because he wants to create a sense of immediacy on the page. So like he'll read a page and he'll do the art for that page. And every now and then I'm like, actually, I need this guy to like be at that part of the room because like later in the book, he's going to need something from over there. And he's like, you got it, of course. He's always so positive. He's so full of positive energy. And his emails are so full of exclamation points and like thumbs up emojis and things like that. I love working with him. It's really great. And he is someone who I'll be like, this page should be real bloody. And he's like, you got it. And so he really throws himself into it. And I think he really likes to play around with like lighting, shadows, color in a way that brings so much feel to the book. So I love working with him. I'm looking forward to whatever we do next, you know.
And for the characters in the book, were there any, actors or kind of movie roles that you were kind of trying to what's the word I'm looking for, emulate, I guess?
Somewhat, although Andre kind of like, I think he resists making anything look too similar to what exists already. So I would send him, I'd be describing the characters and be like, this guy looks kind of like this, but kind of like that. There's a character Lanny who's his cellmate, and I'm like, he looks kind of like Cheech Marin. Not exactly. And he created this character. I'm like, that gets across the feel exactly, but you wouldn't look at it and say, oh, that's Cheech Marin. Or this real Weasley jerk of a character in it, who is going to become who becomes a larger part of the story as it goes on. This character, Garth, who's like the sidekick to the head of the kind of like Aryan Brotherhood type character leader in the book. I was like, he looks kind of like this Weasley character from this one movie from a while back, and I sent him a picture of that movie, and he's like, you got it. And he gives me a character who gets across the same feel, but is not the exact same thing, which I love. I think he's always really looking for, how do we make this something that has the vibe you're going for, but is not the Ultimates with Samuel Jackson just showing up as Nick Fury, and you're like, well, that's obviously Samuel Jackson. Like, what's going on here?
So, how many issues is Barbarian Behind Bars slated for, and are you planning on leaving room for a sequel?
So it's scheduled for 5 issues. It's a type 5 issues.
Okay.
You'll get a complete story. But I am leaving it open for a sequel because I really love the characters in it. The Barbarian, who I like to leave his backstory mysterious because it gets revealed later in the series, but his name is, I think you hear his name in this one, it's Darkor. But his public defender Irene and his cellmate Lanny, and they're these 3 characters that I really came to like love so much while I was writing, and they go through such terrible experiences in this book. So I feel like I owe it to them to give them another story where they can they're still going to go through terrible experiences, but it'll be different experiences. And I had such fun playing them off of each other. The Barbarian he's like, for most of the book, the other characters cannot understand him, and he's a very physical presence, and there's a nobility about him, but it is the nobility of someone who only knows how to express themselves through violence, and knows that violence is is not the most noble way to express yourself, and he doesn't know how to solve a problem other than fighting, but he's yearning for it. And his cellmate Lanny is a guy who's been in jail since he was young and committed a murder during a robbery that he's regretted ever since. He's become a Buddhist in jail, and he's proud of his Buddhism and his ability to cook grilled cheese on like this makeshift hot plate that he's put together. And so I love the fact that he's like a regular guy, but he's always got something from Buddhist wisdom to share, but not always at the best opportunity. Like it's not always when people want to hear about that. But he's very proud about grilling cheese. And Irene she's a public defender, but she's like not a great public defender. And she's really short-tempered, and she's really sarcastic and kind of aggressive. And I'm a big sucker for female characters who are aggressive and sarcastic and just do not want to deal with the things that are being placed on them. And these three characters I found kind of played off each other in such a great way where they can all be kind of the protagonists in a scene, but in a way where there's still tension between them, and there's still frustration and a fun dynamic between them. So I'm hoping to do more with them at some point. Hopefully the book will do well enough that we can justify it. But first, it's only 5 issues, so you don't have to worry about getting in for a long haul. 5 issues, and that's the full story. You'll love it.
So is the sequel entitled Barbarian Beyond Bars?
What a great title! It should be. That's a great title.
That is a great title, actually.
It is a great title.
Elliot, if you go with that, you got to give Chad a Coke. Like
I'll say title inspired by. I'll say that's what I'll say. That is a great title, Barbarian Beyond Bars. Yeah, because Barbarian Between Bars is not great. That just makes it sound like you tried to slip out and you couldn't make it all the way through.
T1000.
Yeah, exactly.
Either that, or he's on a bender. You're going from one bar to drink.
Well, that could be. Then it's Barbarian Behind Bars, and it's him throwing up, in the alley behind the bar.
That's funny. So we've kind of talked about her a little bit, but let's get to the other major project that you have going on right now, and that's Harley Quinn.
Sure.
Over at DC. You've been on that book for roughly a year, I think.
20 or so issues.
Yeah, it's been a little more than it's been almost 2 years at this point, which is astounding.
Oh, 2 years. Okay, yeah. My mistake.
It's the longest run I've ever had on a book, and a child tried to enter the room and then closed the door roughly. So I apologize for that slam if you heard it.
I think it came on issue 46.
It was 46 or 44, maybe. I don't. I'd have to look it up. I'd have to look in my files. Part of the issue is also that I'm writing the book, months ahead of what's coming out. So there are times when I'm like, which issue is out now? I think we're in the. I think
you're in the 60s.
Yeah, it's like that. So I started in the 40s and now it's in the 60s. But it's but I really have enjoyed writing it. I mean, Harley Quinn's a great character. I really love her, but she's a character who I love that she is funny and she is chaotic, but she's also fairly introspective for a character. Like she has a psychology background, and for someone like me who has been in and out of therapy for years for various reasons, it's been thank you. It's been a great opportunity to use to take like feelings I think a lot of us have about self-doubt or not understanding what we're supposed to be doing in life and channel them through this really bonkers character who's really fun to write. And that DC has given me so much rope to hang myself with on this one, in that the people there have also been really great for me and have been really good about helping me carve out like a little corner of Gotham City that usually is not that related to what else is going on in Gotham. Right now I'm working on a storyline that is more directly tied into a larger event that's coming up.
Is it the Poison Ivy event?
I can't say anything about it, but of course if Poison Ivy is doing something, then Harley's going to be involved.
No, I think that's it. I think that's the next Batman event that's coming out.
And they've been really supportive of me writing a book that is funny, but also can be heartfelt at times, and where I can use some of the kind of lesser lights of the Batman world and bring them in and invent silly characters and build a supporting cast for Harley that really populates her world. And so do a fair number of issues about gentrification and urban lifestyle issues, which is a big interest of mine, and so I've had a great experience there, and they've let me do a lot of really zany stuff with the book. Like there's a scene in one of the issues where over a period of a few issues, Harley is at war with her own brain. Her brain is like doubting her and the decisions she's making, and eventually swaps places with her and takes over her body for a while. And the idea of having this character who is literally in a fight with her own brain, and that the way that the fight ends is by her sleeping with her brain, essentially, like, is that she has a confrontation with her brain and is able to, and decides that she has to show herself self-compassion. That's the first step in real therapy. But there's a thin line between self-compassion and just plain passion, and she ends up having sex with her own brain. And I remember like talking to my editors, and I'm like, I hope you let me do this scene. If you don't want me to do it, we're gonna have trouble. And they were like, no, this sounds fine. This is great. And once they did that, it was like I had no mountains left to climb. So it's been a great experience, and it's a book that for most of its run, it's single issue stories that are kind of like slowly building the cast of characters and what's going on. And I wanted people to be able to pick up an issue, read a full story, hopefully enjoy it, that every issue would be funny, even if there's some serious thing happening, that there's funny moments in it, and really make her a humor character, and bring her a little bit down to earth after a couple runs of Harley kind of getting into big stories, or like cosmic stories. Make her a character who is dealing with street level things. And I don't know, one of the themes of the book has turned out to be kind of like friendship and community, which I think a lot of the things I write are about community and how you find a community, what it takes to build one, and where the strength that comes with letting other people into your life. And so something that I've been proud of with the book is that like a number of characters start out as villains and then eventually just become part of her supporting cast. So like one of the first villains she deals with is a character named Convoy the Untruculated Man, who is a man who has the power to, it's called ventriloquism, where with his mind he can control mid to large vans and trucks. And he starts out as a villain, and then by the time of the issues that are coming out now, he's just like a member of her supporting cast who lives in the neighborhood. These two characters that I picked up from the DC universe, Convoy I came up with, but these characters, Gun Bunny and Mayfly, who were kind of like, just general assassin characters that they came in because they were going to pick
Bloodlines.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bloodlines character. Yeah, and they came in. I'll say to my editors, I'm like, give me a list of like kind of C and D list villains that I could play around with, and they'll pitch them to me. And I was like, I want to take Mayfly, and Gun Bunny was always with Gunhawk. I want to take Gun Bunny away from Gunhawk, and now the two of them are friends called the Gun Buddies, and they're assassins. Like, they take contracts, but they're really about female friendship and about supporting each other and being really close friends. And by this point, they're now friends. They've shot Harley a couple times, but by now they're friends with Harley. And like, I love just taking these characters and taking them from being villains to making them supporting characters. And so it's been a very fun run. And in the storyline that's coming out right now, it's in the aftermath of the KO event, which I still don't fully understand, but it's okay. But where Harley has become kind of two people, and one of them is this character Bat Quinn, who is my take on what Harley's take on what the Dark Knight from the Dark Knight Returns would be. And the storyline's called the Hark Knight Returns, HARQ for Harlequin. And it was very fun for me to reread Dark Knight Returns and be like, I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to do Harley's take on it, where she can't quite pull it off. And it's been super fun, and I'm looking forward to. This is the longest storyline so far. It's a 6-issue story block, where the longest storyline before had been 3 issues. But I'm excited to see how people take to it once they realize that I think it is not going to go the way that they expect it to. So,
was when you were got on the book, was there a level of, I don't know, trepidation? Because I think when most people think of Harley Quinn, they think of the Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner run. Even though Alex Ross, I think, created her, or Paul Dini did for Mad Love, and then that was her first. But they really kind of, Palmiotti and Conner kind of set a bar.
Yeah, I mean, their run is great. I went and reread their run before writing this, and I think the thing they accomplished was taking this character and making her into a character. Like that on the animated series, like she was such a charismatic character, and I think it was. And in the Mad Love book, they're really like they give her emotion, but there isn't still. She was so defined by her relationship with the Joker, and even in like that great the episode of the animated series Harley and Ivy, where it's her and Poison Ivy together, like she was still, it's still like, oh, this is her night out from the Joker, and I think the Palmiotti and Connor run did such a great job of making her a character that doesn't need to be in his orbit, and I think since then different writers have done a great job of building on that until now. I think it's been long enough that I don't feel like I'm in the shadow of that run quite the same way, but I'm certainly building on on the foundation they laid of making it so she can stand on her own 2 feet. And one of the fun things about doing this run was right at the beginning, my editors, Ariana and James, they said to me, they were like, here's 2 things we don't want you to do. We don't want you to do multiverse stories. And I was like, great, no problem. I don't want to. And they said, we don't want you to do Joker stuff. And I'm like, great, no problem. Like, because once the Joker comes in, and her find just by this one relationship, whereas I want her to be her own character. And if you're going to define her by any relationship now, it'll be her relationship with Ivy, but I don't know. I'm certainly building on that foundation, but there wasn't trepidation so much as there was the trepidation of taking on a character that some people have a very, very strong opinion of who she is and what she's supposed to be and what kinds of stories she's supposed to be in. And certainly the fans I hear from the most are the ones who are not happy with the way that I'm doing it. But I don't know. But I feel like my first audience is my editors, and they'll be like, this was hilarious. And I'm like, great, I'm glad you liked it. And every now and then my mom tells me when she likes a joke that was in one of the issues. So that's good enough for me, And I know that this is a corporate character, so I'm only on it for a little bit, and then I'll take my leave at some point, and somebody else will take over the book, and they'll find their way to do Harley. So it's like just like life. I know this is a temporary jaunt, and I'll try to make the most of it in my own way as much as I can. What a long answer that was. I apologize. My answers have been very long today.
We love long answers. It gives us less pressure on us. So,
no problem.
My cat is being insane in the background, so please bear with me.
No worries, no worries.
My question to you is, a character like Harley Quinn is similar to Deadpool in a lot of ways, in the sense that it's easy to write a one-dimensional version of that character.
Yes.
How did you get inside of Harley's head to avoid such a calamity?
Thank you for saying that I avoided it. I appreciate that. I think anytime I write a character for anything, my first step is I say, what is it about this character that I personally relate to? I don't want this character to be a duplicate of me, because I'm not Harley Quinn. That would be insane. I don't live that life. But what is it about this character that I relate to and feels real to me? And with Harley, it was a lot of like those issues that I mentioned earlier of like self-doubt, not thinking you're good enough, not thinking you deserve, the things that you have, but also feeling like we've all had times in our life where we feel adrift, we're not sure what direction to go in. And I think starting the book out in a place where Harley was looking for a direction, looking for something to do, to find, and also tapping into the part of her where it's like, well, if I was in that situation, this is what I wish I could do, but I can't because I'm a sensible person who has to live with the consequences of my actions. But if I was Harley and I didn't have to, how would I handle this? I think that was a big part of it. There's something that Chuck Jones once said about writing Daffy Duck, where he was saying, we look at the Daffy inside of ourselves, like the part of ourselves that is Daffy, and we bring that out. And that's the Daffy Duck that we write, so that you aren't just writing a one-dimensional character. And I think you're right. Especially with humor characters, there's a temptation to just make them either joke machines or to make them just kind of like destruction machines in the case of Harley and Deadpool, and to not give them real motivations, real feelings about what they're doing, real wants, and I think that's the secret to both of them, is to treat them like real people. When you're writing a character, treat them like a real person. And even if all of that doesn't end up on the page, the feeling behind it will end up on the page, and people will be able to pick up on it. But it also means that, like, yeah, Harley's not just bouncing around going like, I broke this thing, whoa, like that. She's got feelings, she's got emotions, and she has desires and ways to try to get them, and interacts with other characters, and treating her like that, and not just making her not just making her Bugs Bunny, but Bugs Bunny's a pretty rich character, not just making her Woody Woodpecker, who's a pretty flat character,
Right.
And the best Deadpool stories, it was such a, I remember what a mind opener it was, and maybe this is more of an influence than I was realizing. That first run of, was it Joe Kelly on Deadpool? The Deadpool book in the 90s where...
Yeah, with Ed McGuinness on art.
Yes, with Ed McGuinness, where it was like, oh, for the first time this character has a history, has a psychology, has feelings. Like, it was like, oh, wow, they're really taking this character who... He's a cool dude. He's got katanas. He can kill anybody. He's always making jokes. And they really made him someone who had yearnings and feelings and a real inner life. And it was really exciting. I remember reading that book when it was first coming out. It was just so exciting to see this character unfold as a real character.
Yeah, most definitely. And
Yeah.
Harley's, you can say the same for Harley.
Yeah,
And
I think that was that.
Sure, you're following in some pretty big boots, or pretty big footsteps.
Oh, for sure. I mean, anytime I went back and I reread also when I was preparing that original Mad Love one shot that Paul Dini and Bruce Timm did. And it was like, oh, right here, there's so much, like, they take this character who's just kind of like a goofy henchman for Joker and giving her feelings, and giving her feelings that involve the Joker, but like this kind of tragic essence of, she just wants the love of this guy who is a monster, and she's trying her hardest and she gets beaten up for it. But by the end of it, the tiniest hint of affection from him, and she's into him all over again. The kind of the sadness of that, and it raised her into a new level from someone who, as far as I know, in the cartoon series, originally they were like, we need a cool looking henchman for Joker who can stand in the background. And there's just something about her that made them more and more interested. And so I'm definitely, yeah.
And she's definitely, through the years is becoming even more developed, through your work, through I think it's Rachel Carlson's DC Icon novels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it's very funny to me that Harley Quinn is now probably like the fourth biggest character in terms of public understanding of the DC characters. It's like there's like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and then like Harley Quinn, basically. Yeah. And like, take that Flash, take that Green Lantern, and
or Aquaman.
Take that Aquaman. And I feel like a character like that, a character can only achieve that level of notoriety to the general public if there's something in them that's kind of special to glom onto. Like the same way that if you ask like Marvel characters, even someone who doesn't know anything about Marvel characters knows who Spider-Man is, knows who Hulk is.
Right.
Like, and it's because I think, beyond just the fact that they look amazing, is that there's an extra element to their core that you can glom onto that makes them more than just a visual and a power set, and that's Harley Quinn. She doesn't really even have a power set, to be honest. So it's just her as herself.
She has a mallet.
She does have a mallet. She sometimes has a baseball bat. In my run, she has a lot of sticks of dynamite. She has her hyenas, which I have to admit, and this is my secret shame as a writer on Harley Quinn, I can never figure out what to do with those hyenas, and I often just kind of leave them in. I'm like, Harley's just gonna not mention that she has pet hyenas for a couple issues. If there's one element about Harley that I can never quite figure out, it's what to do with her hyenas. Someday maybe I'll figure it out.
Now, are there any other DC characters you'd like to work on? Because I know a couple years ago you did kind of the tentpole story for Tales from the Dark Side with the Damian Wayne's Teen Titans team, and that it was I felt that pretty much that really captured his character and the other characters down.
Thank you for reading it. I appreciate you reading that one. I mean, I did a couple of like 1-page, 2-page type things with Ambush Bug years ago for like DC Online, and that's a character that I'd love to dig into also. He's the DC characters that I would really love to do are the ones that like are not not the big characters. So I wish I could be like, I've got all these great ideas for Superman, which I'll never get the chance to write anyway. But if they came to me tomorrow and they were like, do you want to do an OMAC book? Do you want to do a Commandy book? I'd be like, yeah, definitely, for sure. Do you want to do a I'm trying to think who else. Like the I'll have to think about it. I feel like but it's like do you want to do a creeper book? I'd be like, yeah, definitely 100%. Like, yeah, the characters that are, where there's a lot of room to play with them. And
how do you feel about the Forever people?
I love the Forever people. I mean, anything from the Fourth World, I would do in a heartbeat. If they were like, we need someone to write an Orion book, I'd say on it. The Forever people, yes. Anyone? Can you write Slig and the Deep Six? Yeah, for sure. I'll find something to do with them. You want to write a bug book? Yeah, I'll do a bug book. That sounds fantastic. So like any of those. If it's like if Marvel was like, do you want to do a book? Would you write a book for us? If any characters, it'd be hard for me not to be like, yeah, I finally want to write that D-Man book that I've always wanted to write, or like I'd write one about a like Carcass and the Reject from the Eternals. Like, yeah, I want to write these guys. So it's I feel like unfortunately that might be the comedy writer in me, where there's part of me that is like, I got to write a Wolverine annual once, and I was like, oh, this is so great that I get to write Wolverine. And Spider-Man's the greatest character in fiction, so I was excited that I got to write a Spider-Man, miniseries years ago. But again, if they asked me at Marvel, they're like, what characters do you want to write? Anytime I've ever pitched them something, it's been like, what are we doing with Sleepwalker these days? What's going on? At one point, they were not interested in this, but I was pitching them something it was like that Alicia Masters was going to run like a halfway house for like former younger heroes that now need a place to go. So it was like, the place that like, like Rage from the New Warriors would end up or something like that. But
Darkhawk is hanging out there.
Yeah, Darkhawk is, yeah, exactly. Like all those, I mean, I feel like the characters where there's a lot of potential that hasn't been as tapped in. Those are the ones I would be most excited about, or the ones that are off the beaten path. So they don't have as much freight to carry. They're not load bearing in the Marvel universe.
I could see you doing a Young Heroes in Love revamp.
I would love. That was a great book, Young Heroes in Love. That was. I should reread that. I remember reading that at the time and being like, I love that this is. It feels so different from the other books. And again, it's taking it seriously, kind of like if a bunch of young heroes got together, they'd just be falling into each other's beds all the time. Yep. There was that one issue where they found like a Japanese comic of themselves, and they're like, "What is this?" And it's just like page after page of untranslated Young Heroes in Love manga. That was a fun book. That was like there are a number of. I mean, both companies have a number of books like that, like the characters that didn't really hit at the time, but there's a lot of
from DC 1,000,000.
Yes, exactly.
What a great run by Tom Peyer.
Yes, that was a fantastic book. Yeah. Where like there was that book from Marvel years ago called The Order that only lasted for like 10 issues.
Yes, and Matt freaking Fraction wrote that.
Yeah, and it's a super fun book, and those characters are really cool, and you just never know. I mean, that's the thing with comics that's exciting is it's such at its best, it's like a idea generating world. There's always new things, and nothing ever goes away, so you can always pick something up. Like the fact that we're living in a world where Squirrel Girl is now like an established kind of popular character is astounding. Absolutely. After years of her just being the go-to joke like reference. So it's exciting. So yeah, if they were like, pick any character at DC that you want, and we'll give you 5 issues to try it out, I would be like, it would be so hard for me not to pick a character that would almost instantly doom the book to being canceled after those 5 issues, because it would be someone who, or like if they were like, do you want to write another book in the Bat family? I'd be like, yeah, let me write a Batmite book. Like could he have his own ongoing? And they'd just slam the door in my face probably. But
I mean, I'm a firm believer that there's no such thing as a bad character.
I agree.
Characters who maybe haven't had their potential understood yet. And
there are characters who someone hasn't found the right way to do it. There are a few characters that are kind of like there's a problem at their core that's hard to. If someone came to me and said, we want you to write like the character Solo, the mercenary character from Marvel, who's basically just like, or the Foreigner, any of those kind of hitman assassin characters, who are basically kind of the Punisher.
Bargain bin Punishers.
Exactly. I'd be like, I don't know how to write those. I don't understand that. But if they came to me and they were like, it's time, Kilowog needs his own book, I'd be like, Okay, sign me up. Let's see what we can do. Let's make it happen.
I'd read that.
Yeah, because there's so much. Because there's so much more you could do with it. There's less pressure on a character like that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's there's just so many possibilities. It's a great and that's just in the world of superheroes. Comics is such a beautiful medium. There's so much you can do with it, and there's so many ways to play with the elements, and it's just there's always new ways to use that format or to find things to do with that format and tell stories with it, and it's just really inspiring.
Yeah, most definitely.
Now you've got me thinking. I'm like, I got to go back to my editors and be like, all right, here are the really dumb characters that I want to
Here's
that I want to work with.
Squirrel Girl.
Who's the character who's they're a laughing stock right now, but all you get there was a I mentioned my editors. I'm like you should be glad I'm not pitching you the Gun Buddies miniseries I'd like to do, and they're like, if this was 1995, we'd probably come out with that miniseries, but probably not in 2026.
Yeah.
Well, Chad, do we think we're ready for top 5?
Sure. So we'll start at number 5. We'll go around, say our top 5, say a little bit about it, and then as things go, we go to number 1.
Okay.
Yes, because it's a countdown.
Okay, I've got two top 5s. Well, I'll tell you after you announce what the top 5 is. I'll tell you what my
Chad, tell us what our top 5s are. Our top 5 is this week.
Oh, it's superhero movies, shows, entertainment. Anytime they put it on the screen, translated a comic to a screen, big or large, then.
Because I've got my top 5 ones that are actual superheroes, and my top 5 movies where they're kind of superheroes. They're kind of superhero-y.
Okay.
I have a couple TV programs and mine, and I guess I'll start with my number 5. And you can send hate mail to Chad at Comic Watch dash, but I think it was really a missed potential, but Powerless, the kind of the Office type show about the.
Oh yeah.
I think it was it was the only bright spot in the DCU when everything was filmed in the dark, and
yes, I remember that. So much potential.
Yeah,
it's too bad. It feels like there's a real opportunity for a show that is about kind of ordinary people in a superhero world, or people who are dealing with that world who are not in the middle of it. And I know that Marvel years ago was trying to develop a damage control series that I think never saw the light of day, and it's too bad. Someone's gotta develop like a Daily Planet or a Daily Bugle series where it's like you're covering the news in a superhero world, but
you are the fly on the wall in the Marvel Universe type show.
Exactly. Yeah, Parallel's a good choice.
Yeah, that's a good one, Chad. I'd completely forgotten about that. All right, Elliott, you're our guest. Why don't you go next?
My 5th on my orthodox superhero adaptation ones was the Fleischer Superman shorts from the 40s, which they're so beautiful, and that's like the platonic ideal to me of a Superman story, which is literally just a bad thing happens, Superman flies in and kind of takes care of it, and then he flies away. And the colors are so bright, the animation looks so good. It feels so it's one of those things where you're like, oh, it feels like I'm watching a comic book kind of alive in front of me. And so I really love those.
Oh, that's a great choice.
Aside from the, kind of, it was, par for the time, but kind of the blatant racism.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not counting Japators, the one that's particularly racist. I'm more like the one where a dinosaur gets thawed out, or the one with the mad scientist with the robots. I think anything earlier than certain times, you're gonna have to accommodate an unfortunate amount of racism. Yeah.
Yes, most definitely.
Thanks for mentioning that, Chad. Thanks for making me sound like a terrible person. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Asterisk.
That's why I'm here.
My number 5, and I got to really put some thought into this. So I'm going to deliberately exclude anything from the MCU, just because it would otherwise comprise my entire list, and I don't
Mhm.
think that that's fair to the other things out there. But I'm such a Marvel zombie at heart that I can't help myself. So, my number 5, it would probably be Batman '89. And I know that's like a super obvious thing, but you guys were there in '89. There was
Sure.
nothing else like it culturally that had ever happened.
The amazing thing about the '89 Batman is it's a super fun movie. And I remember when it came out, everyone was like, finally, like a serious superhero movie. This is so dark. And you watch it now, and it's so silly, especially compared with how dark stuff got. But it's but it's such a that's I mean, like the it looks so great. Like it's so fun to
Yeah.
watch. Yeah, yeah.
And Bat Dance, come on.
No. All right, Chad, number 4.
I'm going to have to go with the kind of what got me into comics as a young kid, but the Super Friends.
Oh, nice.
I still have my Super Friends bed sheets,
Oh,
much to my wife's chagrin. I don't want to get, but I even when they were put on the HBO, streaming service, they are hokey, but it's kind of fun to go back and watch them. And then it kind of a tangent with that one would be, when Batman and Robin and the Joker and stuff appear on Scooby Doo.
mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was amazing that Scooby-Doo lived in a world for a while where he could run into Batman or Sonny and Cher or the Three Stooges or Abbott and Costello. And it was like, what a world.
Or the
this is.
Globetrotters.
Or the Globetrotters. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, Elliot, what's your number 4?
I think my number 4 is The Incredibles, the first Incredibles movie, which I remember seeing that and I was like, so he did it. Like somehow it's so hard, I think, to do an original superhero in the movies and get across that feeling of like the characters are fully formed, they have a history, and like the action scenes are so great in it. The way that Brad Bird does it is just it's so fun. And like that's when I was really excited to show that to my kids when they were old enough to watch it. And there's a moment in it where Dash is like running from the bad guys and he's about to hit water, and he's like, and he realizes that he can run across water, and he just starts laughing because he's so excited about the potential of his own abilities. And that meant so much to me when I first saw it in the theaters when I was like in my 20s, I guess. Just this character who just gets a moment of like exulting and like, I don't know if I can do this. I can do it. And it's I just think it's such a fun movie,
Yep. It's pretty much flawless.
Yeah.
And curious aside, it took me forever to realize that movie is not taking place in modern times. It's taking place in the 60s.
Yeah.
And it just didn't. It's like it's got the whole aesthetic going for it, of course, and the cars and the clothes, et cetera, et cetera. And just for whatever reason, my brain did not translate. Oh, this is not set in modern times with a cool aesthetic. It's actually set in the 60s.
Well, I think it helps that the characters aren't acting too like overtly old timey.
Yeah.
Like they feel like current characters, which is the right way to do it, even when you're doing a period thing.
Agreed.
So it's it looks like he's got such an amazing sense of design style. I mean, so many people worked on that movie, but it's the fact that their costumes look so good and their costumes look like superhero costumes as opposed to whenever this is one of my beefs with even with the MCU stuff where they're like, we wanted to add some texture to these costumes, and I'm like, don't do that.
No.
Like, why is this costume made out of little pebbles? Like, come on. I don't understand. Anytime they take
or have nipples.
Or have nipples. I mean, at that point, Batman was had hit rock bottom and was making decisions he shouldn't make and things like that.
Yes.
I like to think that was Batman was designing that costume in a low moment, and his family and friends were like, when do we talk to him about this?
All right. My number 4 is going to be Teen Titans Go. It is, on top of just being hysterical, it is a pretty much perfect love letter to all things DC.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it can be as wacky as it is and still be genuine in its love of the source material is a huge balancing act that only the canniest of writers could and creative teams behind the scenes could pull off.
I almost put Teen Titans Go on my list for the same reason, that it's somehow so funny, but it never feels like that the joke is superheroes are dumb or superheroes are goofy.
Oh.
It's comedy. It's taking place within a world that takes itself. Like when they're doing superhero stuff, it's like it's serious. They're sincere about it. You know.
Yes, totally agree. All right, Chad, number 3.
No. Yeah, I have a son who's 9 years old, and so during the pandemic, we watched a lot of the. Was the Avengers cartoon, but they're like the chibi type characters.
Was that Earth's Mightiest Heroes? Was that one, or was it a different
Yes, yeah, that one, and it was. It worked on so many levels. It was geared towards kids, but there were some nice winks and nods to older viewers who might be watching with their kids.
Very cool. I'm a lot less familiar with that one, so I'll have to check it out. Elliott, number 3.
Number 3, I have the first of the Spider-Verse movies, which is what, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I think, where there was a moment, partly because I watched that with my son when he was going through some health stuff that was kind of scary, and we were able to just kind of watch it, and he's not a real superhero guy, and he just enjoyed it so much. And it feels like there's a point during the credits, the credits at the very end of that movie, when there's just as many Spider-Mans on screen as humanly possible. And I was like, well, they did it. They figured out what I wanted to see in a movie more than anything else, which is just a bunch of Spider-Mans on screen doing things. And I feel like that's another one that is so funny, but it also doesn't feel like they're not at any point not taking the character or the character's feelings or the motivations seriously. It's very much about what it means to be Spider-Man, and it's really funny, but it's also really exciting. But I think just remembering watching that with my son, it made it a very special movie for me. So that's my number 3.
Dig it.
Yeah,
I like it. My number 3 would be the first Deadpool movie. And I say that because it's so obviously made with a shoestring budget, but it's got its heart on its sleeve in such a way that, relative shoestring, because it still looks phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But it's got its heart on its sleeve, and it's obvious that everybody involved just was just head over heels with what they were doing.
I feel like it's such a redemption story for Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. Yes. Like the idea that he played that character in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and he was like, no, I can't let it stand at this. I've got to do right by this character. This is terrible, and that he made it happen. It's astonishing to me that Deadpool is now such an enormous character, when I remember for years when he could not. His book was always at the verge of cancellation,
right?
And they had that period where it was Cable and Deadpool, and then Deadpool was like teaming up with a different character in each issue, and they're like, "What do we do? What do we do to keep this book alive?" And that now he is,
in every book.
Yeah, he's in every book, and you see him. I wrote years ago. I wrote a story for Marvel that never got published, but it was drawn and inked and everything, and that was a Spider-Ham short story. That was a parody of the Old Man Logan series before the Logan movie came out. It's called Old Man Spider-Ham. And even at the end of that story, I had Deadpool show up, and he's like, "What are you doing? You're doing a book without Deadpool in it? What are you talking about, man? You can't do that." Like, he just burst into the book, and it's just astonishing to me. But yeah, it's amazing for when someone is like, "I'm going to do right by this character. I got to make it happen," and they actually make it happen.
They actually make it happen. Yeah. Okay, Chad, number 2.
My number 2, I'm going to have to say the Peacemaker TV show.
You stole mine.
I mean, and even the James Gunn Superman movie, because after the years of being forced to watch Zack Snyder Dark, I still have not seen either cut of the Justice League movie.
You're not missing
No.
anything.
You're not meant to. I will tell you this: the Zack Snyder cut is better, but it's a better version of something that isn't right at some point. And
Yes, that's actually a really good way to put it.
I remember
It's
watching.
less disjointed.
Yes, I remember, but it's less disjointed. But you're like, I'm still not. This still feels
it's still not
wrong.
a good thing.
And I remember watching Batman versus Superman, and I was like, is this what we wanted? Was Batman to be slamming Superman's face into a urinal in an abandoned men's room in an old train station? Is that? I don't know. If that's what I wanted out of these characters, you know.
And then for everything to be stopped when it goes, Martha, huh? Martha?
Exactly. Wait, your mom's got the same name as my mom. It's such a funny reason. But anyway, so I see what you're saying. But now to bring, you're saying to bring kind of like a new feeling into the DC universe.
Oh yeah, I mean, even the new Superman movie was like, it felt like what Superman's supposed to be, hope, sunny. So, I mean, even with the previous Superman movies where you had Brandon Routh kind of being stalker Superman outside the window, that was kind of creepy.
There was in the that Superman Returns, right? Like there's a part in that where when he's anyway. Well, this is not a family appropriate, but the how it's like he doesn't know that her fiance, I think, thinks that Lois's fiance thinks her child is his child, and I'm like, but it's really Superman's child. And I'm like, did she sleep with both of them in the same night? Like, I don't understand. How does he not realize the timing doesn't work out? That like this kid was born 9 months after Superman, the day Superman. I don't understand. So that I had a lot of questions about that movie.
Yeah, but at the same time, when it came out, it was the best Superman we'd had since like 1981.
Oh, for sure, in years and years. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. Okay. So Chad stole Peacemaker from me, but Elliot, go ahead. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is the other Spider-Man on my list, which is Spider-Man 2 from the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, which that to me is that's still my favorite superhero movie ever. I think it's the best one. They did such a good job. Like the Dr. Octopus story is so heartbreaking, and there's all the stuff with Peter's like the journey that he's going through, but also the action scenes are great in it, and it's so bright. I'm like a big fan of bright stuff. I feel like it was one of the first times I liked that first Spider-Man movie also when it came out. It was the first time where I was like, this feels like I'm seeing the character and his world that I've grown up with and been imagining in my head all this time, and they're living in front of me, and it's such a good movie. And unfortunately, when I tried to show this one to my son, he pretty instantly he was like, "This is a pretty cheesy movie. I don't know, it's kind of corny." And I was like, "Oh, come on." Oh. Yeah. But there's a moment in that movie when that whole fight on the elevated subway train is so great. It's not, I don't know how geographically accurate it is to New York City because I don't remember where in the city it takes place that they're on an elevated train. But the whole that fight is so great, and at the end when he kind of like passes out because he's exerted himself, and there's just a shot of his chest and all the hands from the people on the train grabbing him to pull him back inside, and it was just such a beautiful moment of like, this guy's the hero, but he still needs to be saved sometimes. Like he still needs other people in his life, and even these regular people can be heroes in this moment. And I thought it was just such a beautiful image and moment in that movie, as opposed to one where Spider-Man's just kind of like, oh, I'm on my own. I can't do, I'm the only one who can handle this, and nobody can help me. It's just, I like that they got to that aspect of him,
And then in the next movie, he strutted down the street.
I got to tell you, I think Spider-Man 3, the parts that I don't like about it are not the part where he's starting to, like when he turns into emo symbiote Spider-Man. I remember seeing it in the theaters and I was like, you know what? It's not what I would have expected, but it's kind of a funny idea that his version of an evil version of himself is this guy.
He's still a nerd.
He's still a nerd. Exactly. He's the evil version of a nerd. But what a waste of Venom otherwise. They really didn't. I mean, it was, I guess Sam Raimi was not that interested in that character.
No.
And, and I was such a Venom maniac when I was young. Like I was just the right age to be around when Venom was one of the biggest characters in comics,
Yes.
So.
Did you have the holographic cover and then the glow in the dark cover?
Yeah, I had those covers. Yeah, I think my holographic cover, I think I got signed by Mark Bagley at a convention.
Oh, nice.
I think I still have that. So
awesome. Holy grail.
I have that signed by him, and I have Amazing Spider-Man 365, the one with the hologram cover.
Yeah,
that one I have signed by him.
My favorite Lizard story of all time.
That's a great that Lizard story is great, and the art in it is fantastic. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Mark Bagley's work, but especially his work on that first run on Amazing Spider-Man. He's for a long time he was like the definitive. He was the Spider-Man artist who was my Spider-Man artist.
Nope, he's still my definitive Spidey artist.
He's right up there with Romita and Ditko in terms of defining the character's look.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nope, no two ways about that one.
Yeah.
My number 2. Since Chad stole Peacemaker from me, no, I'm just kidding. It's still going to be Peacemaker, suckers.
What a twist.
And I'll just keep it brief since we've already talked about the show, but on top of James Gunn's storytelling sensibility in general, which is taking outcasts and turning them into lovable heroes or anti-heroes that you want to root for, John Cena is a revelation in terms of acting on that show. Like, who would have ever thought that a wrestler turned Peacemaker, of all characters, would have so much pathos to him? And I just love how much they were able to wring out of that in that show. And I'm a little irritated with Gunn that instead of doing his 3rd season, he's like, well, no, Peacemaker's adventures will continue in the rest of the DC movies. Well, I want more of that. Damn it. But I trust in Gunn, we trust. So Chad, number 1, my friend.
Well, this might come as a surprise since a lot of my previous answers were animated and lighthearted, but I am going to have to say the Watchmen HBO series.
Ooh.
I was probably like most people kind of had reservations of how do you take a story that's already almost perfect and can continue it, but I was really disappointed when there was not another season.
Right. And there was never planned to be a 2nd season. So, but yeah, that's a good one, and I wouldn't have thought about that. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head, my friend.
There's a scene in that sticks with me all the time. That I was just talking about it at work the day before yesterday. When that guy is in the suit and they're chasing after him and he just squirts liquid all over himself and then slides into a sewer to get away from the police, and you never see that guy again. And I was like, I love it. I love that this guy, this random masked character, and he has the most amazing way to escape, and they're just like, that's the kind of stuff that happens around here.
Absolutely. What more can you do?
That was a really well done show.
Yeah. All right, Elliott, number 1 with a bullet.
I'm also going to go for a television series. I'm going to say Batman the Animated Series, which I think is, with all the other things I've been talking about, except for Incredibles, because it's an original thing, they're great adaptations of a comic book, right? And but if I was going to say what's the best Superman story, what's the best Spider-Man story, it wouldn't be that adaptation. It would be something from the original material. This might be a controversial thing. I think Batman the Animated Series is the best Batman thing there ever was. I think it's actually better than any of the comic books, to be honest, and better than the movies. And I feel like they somehow managed to figure out how to make the platonic ideal of what a Batman series of adventures would be. And the animation's still beautiful. The design of it looks amazing. The voice cast was amazing. And it's hard for me to think of a Batman thing that I think is as good as Batman the Animated Series, but it's controversial. It's controversial, I know.
No, I don't think it's that controversial.
I think they were hoping for that nostalgia when they were doing the Harley and Ivy and Titan, because it's kind of in the same vein. Yeah, but
it's very
adult.
Adult, and the look is very similar. But the Batman is that show, how it it was on Kids WB, it was a kids show, but it had such a seriousness of purpose about it without feeling grim, and I think about
it doesn't have the edgelord crap.
Exactly, and there's episodes that Mr. Freeze, what is it, Heart of Ice, that with Mr. Freeze, and and the Harley and Ivy episode, and the one with what's his name, the Gray Ghost, like the older hero that Bruce Wayne was a fan of, where they get such pathos out of it and such real character feeling. And I remember just that show, there was like nothing like it on TV.
No, and there still hasn't been anything like it.
Yeah. So that's my pick for number one.
All right. My number one, we also have already talked about, so I'll keep it brief, but Spider-Man 2.
Oh, it was almost my number one. Almost.
I just, there's never been a better superhero movie made, period. Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, everyone involved, Alfred Molina, Kirsten Dunst, they all just, they read the homework and they nailed it.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that the follow-up to it was such a letdown in terms of quality, but you know, what can you do? You know, it's been almost 20 years now since Spider-Man 3.
And I feel like that's the nature of comic books too. I mean, I know these are movies, but like you get a great story, and then right after it, you get kind of a dud. And it's just the nature of it.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody asked me like, you know, what is the essence of Spider-Man or the superhero in general, I would say you need to watch Spider-Man 2.
That's a great point. Like, if someone was going to ask me, like, what is it you like about superheroes, and I only have 2 hours to experience it in, I'd be like, yeah, this is the movie to watch, and it's all there. Yeah. Yep.
It hits the nail on the head. So, all right. Well, Elliott Kalan, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. We appreciate it. The books, we've got Harley Quinn from DC, and we've got the Barbarian Behind Bars from Mad Cave. And also we've got Elliott's podcast, The Flophouse, which you should definitely check out. So,
yeah, if you want to hear, it's a bad movie podcast. It's really more of a guys just making up silly nonsense podcast.
Hey, there's absolutely, listen, the MST3K guys have been doing that for decades. So
I mean, they were very much an influence on us. MST3K was a shining beacon for me, you know, growing up, and continues to be. But yeah, it's a Flophouse podcast. We've been doing it for a little more than 18 years now, and it's and so there's a lot of episodes, and we will continue to do it until someone forces us to stop. It hasn't happened yet, but it may at some point. When I get old enough that my children take the microphone out of my hands, they'll be like, "Okay, Dad, we need you to stop now.
It's time to rest. You've earned it." Well, Chad, what do we have on the
show? Next week we have Christopher Condon coming.
Awesome. We're going to be talking about Ultimate Wolverine, Ezra Kane,
and I get to geek out about Star Wars Rogue One.
Geek out about Star Wars Rogue One. There you go. So our guest tonight has been Elliott Kalan. Elliott, where can we find you on social media?
Well, first I want to say thank you so much for having me. This has been such a blast. I love talking to you guys. So thank you so much. I am.
You're welcome anytime.
Oh, thank you. Well, we'll see. I'll be back when there's something. I have to look up. I'm on Blue Sky, and I'm looking up what it is right now. But it's at elliottkalan.bsky.social, whatever. It's ELLIOTTKALAN. I think I still have a profile on Twitter, but I don't particularly use it. But if you want to get in touch with me, you can DM me there, and perhaps I'll check it at some point, and I'll find out. But otherwise, the best way to follow me is to follow me in podcasting. You know, the Flophouse is where that's where you're most likely to learn about me and what I'm doing. I do another podcast that's on hiatus right now, but it's coming back, called Clueless. That's in the Smartless Network. It's a game show podcast, and cool. And I did I should mention a series I did the year before last with Roman Mars, the host of 99% Invisible. We did a series of podcasts breaking down the book The Power Broker by Robert Caro, which was one of the greatest nonfiction books of all time. And we spent a year talking about it because the book's about 1,200 pages long. And I highly it's long, but it's amazing. But I highly recommend, if anyone is interested in urban infrastructure and how political power is collected and used, then please listen to that podcast. But the Flophouse is the main thing. That's the closest I really have to social media is putting out a podcast and then people sending me emails. So,
well, I was also kind of listened to a little bit of when you did the Presidents Are People too.
Oh yeah,
and I was kind of disappointed that you didn't do one on Herbert Hoover, because that was what my high school was named after. So
Did you grow up in Iowa?
no, West Virginia.
West Virginia. I wonder why they named after. Oh, I gotta know about the story about this because I know all I know is a friend of my wife's. She grew up in Iowa, and her school was also Herbert Hoover High School because I think he was the only president from around there. And she grew up being like, he must be a great guy, must be a great president because they named the school after him. There was this podcast called Presidents or People Do, Presidents or People 2 that I co-hosted with the historian Alexis Coe, and unfortunately we didn't get to do all the presidents. The show got canceled before we finished, but that was a fun one. We got to do a mix of better known and lesser known presidents, and I think I got to do one on Chester A. Arthur, which was great. He's someone whose story hasn't been told enough. But thank you for listening to those. Yeah, hopefully maybe someday we'll get back to him and talk about Hoover because he's a fascinating guy.
Okay. You heard it here first. Herbert Hoover. Excellent. With Elliott Kalan on the
cover. You got right by Barbarian Behind Bars, then maybe I can get Mad Cave to put out my Herbert Hoover series.
Awesome. Herbert Hoover versus the Spies. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us and support. You can check us out at comic-watch.com, of course. And until next time, get out there, do some good in the world. Support local all the way. And just don't be a jerk. Thank you kindly. And until next time, bye.